As we get ever closer to the start of the Winter Triathlon and Duathlon World Championships in Andorra at the start of February, episode 54 of the podcast welcomes an American para-athlete who is no stranger to the snow herself, having already straddled the worlds of triathlon and Nordic skiing to huge success with Paralympic gold in Pyeongchang in 2018, and again on the line at the end of an incredible women's PTWC category race at Tokyo 2020 against our guest from way back in episode 5, Australian Lauren Parker. Today on the World Triathlon podcast, we welcome a 2020 Summer Paralympic Triathlon champion and 2018 Winter Paralympic Nordic Ski champion. She's a three-time Para Triathlon World Champion, just recently crowned Para Nordic Ski World Champion, a Biathlon World Champion. Will soon be on her way to China, where she is looking to defend her Winter Paralympic titles at Beijing 2022. And is still pretty fresh from one of the most tense and tight wins you will ever see in a race at Tokyo 2020. She is the USA's Kendall Gretsch. Kendall, hello. How are you and where are you?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing good. I'm in Lillehammer, Norway right now for our World Championships. They were postponed from last year because of COVID. So a little bit, I guess, weird or non-normal situation to have World Championships the same year as the games. But yeah, here we are.
Here we are. And anything we're missing off that list of sports that you're either smashing or have smashed?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's like 5 sports in itself, so that should be enough.
No, for sure. No, obviously you were a swimmer first and foremost, right? But was that kind of to a level of locally very good college and so on?
Yeah, not even college. I just swam, like my neighborhood swim team, and then in high school. But yeah, honestly, it wasn't really serious for me at that point. It was just kind of like a fun thing that I really enjoyed doing, and it was a great way, to like make friends in high school. And both my sisters were athletic too, and so I was like, well, they did it, I'll do it too. But yeah, not really like a serious endeavor, I guess, at that point.
Right. So yeah, from a sporty family, were you? It was Downers Grove, is that where that was the neighborhood, the kind of like outskirts of Chicago, is that right?
Yeah. One of the sprawling suburbs, I guess, of Chicago.
Right.
But yeah.
Do you still have family there? Do you still live there? Is that where you kind of gravitate back to when you're not traveling the world?
Yeah, so most of my family actually still lives in the Chicago area. And so yeah, when I'm, I guess, not training or competing and I have some off time, that's where I go back to for family, is Chicago area and around there.
Mm-hmm. But did either of your sisters, sorry, did you say you 2 sisters, both sporty? Yeah. Did either of them kind of kick on to do it to a similar level, or are you the one that is kind of your mum's kind of, you come back and she's like, so Kendall, when are you going to stay here for a little while and not jet off somewhere else? Yeah, sorry, mum.
Yeah, I am definitely not winning the favorite daughter category in terms of staying home, because yeah, both of my sisters now live in Chicago, and so we're very close to my parents that are still there. So I'm the one that's kind of, where in the world is Kendall? But yeah, it's my family is super supportive of everything that I'm doing, and so I know they really love watching all the races. Like even now, my parents are waking up at like 4 a.m. to live stream our races here, or like, yeah, they're not checking their phones at all beforehand because they don't want to ruin the result before they can watch it.
Amazing. Well, I want to talk about Tokyo, obviously, but while we're talking about your mum, like what was their reaction to that finish? Which, if anybody's not seen it, then you need to go on YouTube and check it out. But and we'll pick through the race a little bit later on. But yeah, just what was your mum's reaction after what presumably must have put a finish that would have put her through the ringer mentally, emotionally, everything?
Yes, yeah. No, my family had like a bunch of family and friends over to my parents' house to watch the race, and yeah, it's fun because I have some videos of them all watching the race live and like, yeah, just going crazy when they saw the ending of it. And I swear, I think my dad has probably watched that ending like daily since then. But yeah, it was cool. Like, I think, you know, luckily the coverage of the games is really getting pretty good for the Paralympics. And so it was fun knowing that they were able to all watch it live and together as a family since they couldn't be there in Tokyo. And so, yeah, I think that's, you know, it's a unique thing that we have from this experience of people not being there, is now I have this collection of videos of just everyone watching and reacting to the race, which is pretty special for me to have now.
Yeah. To see your parents just kind of presumably like shouting at a TV from pretty close quarters.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, less than 2 months now till the Beijing. How are things shaping up? So yeah, obviously this is, you know, the other string to your sporting bow is the Winter Paralympics. The Nordic skiing. Is that something that just kind of came quite naturally, given Chicago, obviously summer, nice, very green, outdoorsy, seems quite triathlon friendly, and then winter, lots of snow on your doorstep, and well, I don't know, actually mountains, not too far.
No, not really. But yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, growing up in Chicago, like, to be honest, I would say most people don't really enjoy the winter there because yeah, like, outside of being a kid, we don't really do much with the snow, which is such a shame. So it's kind of just this thing that's like
An
annoyance, yeah, in the winter. But when I was done with college, I moved to Wisconsin, and yeah, just like a few hours north from Chicago. And yeah, they definitely embraced the winter lifestyle a little bit more there. So there were places where I could cross country ski, and that's where I kind of got into Nordic skiing. There was an adaptive ski program there that introduced me to cross country skiing. And then, yeah, I was introduced to the Para Nordic, US Para Nordic team while I was living there. So yeah, I guess my background in Chicago, I wasn't a big fan of winter, but now that I actually have like an activity that I love to do in the winter, yeah, it's much more enjoyable.
Yeah. And did you find yourself falling in love with it pretty quickly? I mean, yeah, it's very different.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I think there are a lot of similar reasons why I love Nordic skiing. I guess they're the same as why I love triathlon. So just being able to be outside and compete outside, and I say, like, explore the world through sport. And yeah, it's been a really cool opportunity for both sides of sport. And yeah, I think Nordic skiing, like, we're in the mountains a lot of the time, or areas that are pretty mountainous, and that's really appealing to me. So yeah, it was a pretty immediate thing that I fell in love with. And then I guess from the sporting aspect of it, it's, you know, endurance sport, so that appealed to me coming from triathlon, or my experience at triathlon.
Yeah. And when you say like your first kind of experience of adaptive Nordic skiing, like, adaptive means that there's a facility there that can kind of tailor to most disabilities, is that right? Like, how does that mean literally? Because I remember I saw you said that you only came across adaptive triathlon like in college, I think. Was that right? Or was it swimming?
Yeah, well, I guess both. Yeah, I guess I grew up swimming, but didn't really do anything in like the adaptive world until I was in college. And yeah, kind of the same time I started doing a couple swimming things, but also was introduced to triathlon, para triathlon, when I was in college. But yeah, I guess in terms of adaptive skiing, I use what's called a sit ski. So when I'm skiing, I'm sitting down, and yeah, it's just all arm motion. And so yeah, this program where I lived, they had all of that equipment. So they had sit skis that you could use. Just kind of familiar with like what a sit ski was, how you would ski in it, giving me some pointers and introduction into how to ski in a sit ski. But yeah, there's other, I guess, like the other classifications within skiing. You can have people that are skiing with like one pole, if they're a standing skier. There's visually impaired skiers, so they're just familiar with kind of that whole range of like what are the options in order to cross country ski if you have any sort of disability.
Yeah. And in terms of like that, the first hand cycle that you came across in the first racing wheelchair, presumably they were not anything like as high tech as the ones that you're racing in at Tokyo or whatever, or were they still quite? Yeah, that first time you got in one, were you like, oh, okay, this feels good, like, you know, it felt like a good fit, and you were just like, this is something for me. But then presumably like the first time you go from using a fairly rudimentary one to a state of the art one must be quite a massive leap as well.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, totally. Like, I think looking back at the equipment that I started out on is pretty funny to see, because yeah, it's, you know, it's just like bulky and it's not really built for you. Whereas now in both sports, the equipment that I have is like, yeah, the sit ski I have is a custom carbon built sit ski where it's like an exact mold of my body. And yeah, obviously the racing wheelchair is built just for me. And so yeah, those things make a difference. And yeah, when you're at, you know, the top level, you have to have that equipment. But yeah, so it is funny to look back at pictures from when I first started.
Are these kind of small companies that, it's not like these are like a specialized or a Roka or whatever that have like a different department or someone that works with them? Are these totally separate companies that make the racing?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I guess like the equipment that I use for triathlon, the hand cycle and the racing wheelchair, there's, I would say, like a very limited number of companies on where you can buy that equipment. And so pretty much everyone is using those pieces of equipment. Like there's some variability, but it's pretty standard across the field. Mm-hmm. Whereas Nordic skiing is completely opposite. There's not like one company that's making them, everyone's custom building them. And so yeah, even within the field here, you look around and there's just like a massive variation of what people's sit skis are. Yeah, like the British team, they just worked with a Formula One team to design their sit skis for this year. So yeah, they have these like super fancy carbon sit skis, and then, you know, other people will just looks like a metal seat.
Right.
But yeah, it kind of works for everyone. Yeah, which is funny. It's more about the skis. Like the ski technology is like insane, the amount of work that goes into, like when we're traveling to events here, we'll have maybe 30 to 40 pairs of skis that we bring as a team, and we have techs that are working on the skis and waxing them and testing them daily, if not twice a day, to pick out the exact perfect pair of skis. And so that's where like really the technology side of things comes to play, is the pair of skis that you're on.
So you're in Lillehammer. The world champs are ongoing or have happened. You hoovered up 2 goals, right?
Yes, yeah. We have 2 more races to go.
Right.
So yeah, we're kind of getting towards the end of the world championships. I think that's maybe one thing that's a little bit different than triathlon. Instead of just 1 race, we have, I guess at this competition, we have 7. So quite a different range of, I guess, number of races. But yeah, 2 left to go. And
are the fields bigger as well, much bigger, or how does that look?
Yeah, I would say they are pretty big. Yeah, I guess the races that I've been in so far have ranged, I think, from like 12 to 20 people in my races, whereas typically for our triathlons, they limit the number of people that are in the races, and usually it's like 6 or 7. I think Tokyo we had 11. So yeah, a little bit bigger field here.
And yeah, so you wouldn't normally have quite this heavier a schedule ahead of a Paralympics, and particularly kind of coming straight out of Tokyo as well. So did you presumably had a bit of time off after Tokyo before knowing that this sort of winter schedule was coming? Ahead of Tokyo, like were you in the shape of your life heading into Tokyo? Was everything kind of feeling good, and then that presumably carries over somewhat to now, and you're, despite a bit of a break, you're building on a very, very good level again, are you?
Yeah, and I think that's what works well with doing the two sports. I think, like, it sounds a little bit crazy to be to be doing two sports and every year, but yeah, the fitness, I guess, and the base that you're building between the two seasons really does translate. It's more just the sport specific strength that you're kind of building up and readjusting to every single year. So yeah, I would definitely say I was in the shape of my life before Tokyo. And yeah, I've been doing this transition between the two seasons for the last 4 years. So I'm pretty familiar with that. I would just say that the bigger difference is that, like, mentally just preparing for two games in 6 months, and there's a lot of mental drain going into preparing for Tokyo and again for Beijing. And so yeah, I did take like a pretty solid 2-week break where I really wasn't doing anything, and needed to reset, because yeah, I just knew, not just physically but mentally, it was going to be a pretty big strain.
Yeah, what was still to come around the corner. And your initial move towards the Nordic skiing, was that, am I right in thinking that was also born partly out of the women's PTWC category not being selected for Rio, and rather than dwelling, you just saw Pyeongchang as the next challenge?
Yeah, it was kind of this perfect storm of timing. I just moved to this place that had an adaptive ski program, and they made the announcement that for the classes that were going to be in Rio, and mine wasn't included. And then at the same time, the director at the time for the Nordic skiing program, he reached out, and he knew that I didn't have a medal opportunity anymore in Rio, and said, hey, you should come. We have a camp coming up. You should try out Nordic skiing. It's another endurance sport, and it will give you an opportunity to go to the games and potentially medal. And so I think it was all of those things kind of aligned at the same time. I was somewhere where I could train and had access to snow. And yeah, I went to that first camp and really knew, like, okay, this is a sport that it wasn't just like, oh, here's a way that I can go to the games. It was a sport that I was really going to love. But I also got a chance to go to the games. Yeah.
Is that something that has been a part of your personality, would you say, for, since being a kid, like, rather than sort of dwelling or being like, okay, well, let's give it another 4 years and wait and see, just kind of grabbing the bull by the horns and seizing the opportunities?
Yeah, I would say I've always been pretty determined and up for a challenge. So whether it was like in school or even just as a kid, like I hated people telling me I couldn't do something. And so like even in gym class, I was often told, like, oh, Kendall, like, we're running the mile today, you don't have to run the mile. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. And so yeah, I think just the mentality of like tackling a challenge has been something that been part of me for a while.
So the spina bifida is what it's tissue build up on the spinal cord that then needs to be operated on, and essentially your legs weren't able to grow in the same way as other people's, right? Is that?
Yeah. So when I was born, there was like fatty tissue around my spinal cord. And so that impacted, just like the nerve and muscle development of that area of my spinal cord. So yeah, it's something that I've had my entire life. And yeah, I think that definitely sets you up to have a different mindset about it versus, maybe someone that acquires their disability later in life. Like, this is literally all I've known. And so you're just like, you're used to adapting. And I think, you kind of, it's so second nature that you're not really thinking about it as like, oh, I need to overcome these things. It's like, no, I just need to live my life. And yeah, so you're doing these things that are adapting without even realizing that you're doing it. Yeah.
But did it deteriorate over time if you were able to run a mile, presumably, but using a stick, or did you not, as a kid, did you not have to, and then it kind of deteriorated? Or
So I used to have more function in my legs. I just used like leg braces, and then before high school I had what's called a retethering, and so basically the tissue builds up again around your spinal cord. They went in and another operation and removed that tissue. But yeah, and then since then I primarily walk around with leg braces and crutches. But yeah, when I'm competing, I compete in the wheelchair categories. So yeah, I guess that, that would be one change that I had in my function growing up. So I think that helped as a kid. I was able to be a little bit more active and I guess like a traditional sense in that, like I played softball and basketball and with, just like my regular like neighborhood team. So, yeah.
But you talk about kind of being the favorite daughter and so on, or not. And yeah, I guess if you are born with something like spina bifida, then your parents are perhaps inevitably going to be more careful or caring or worried about you or for you, and then when you're the one daughter that flees the nest, like the freer, that I suppose on the one hand it must make your mum incredibly happy that it hasn't held you back in any way and you're doing this, and then the other probably make her worry even more, like, it's a whole nother.
I think like my parents were awesome growing up. Like, they didn't really like limit me in the activities that I was doing. So yeah, I think as much probably as my mom worried, like I think that was probably more because I was the youngest child and not necessarily because I had a disability. So but yeah, and I think it's also just part of her nature. She's a worrier, which is I don't know. I kind of tease her about it sometimes on how much she's worried and stressed out at times. I have a very opposite personality, I would say. But yeah, I think them being able to see me compete and watching me race around the world is hopefully, some reassurance that I'm okay.
Sure. But yeah, I get the balance between encouraging your young daughter to push herself and do everything, and at the same time, I mean, essentially be very worried about your physical and as a result kind of mental well-being, right? It must be a very difficult balance to strike.
But they did like a really good job of it, because I think a lot of times like people assume that like you had to have this like big struggle in your life and like, oh, like maybe I don't know, like I don't know, that there's like this assumed hardship that you had. And I like really didn't. I had like a very normal childhood and upbringing, and I like credit to my parents on that, and my family, and just our whole attitude about it, I guess. Because it was normal and like not really a thing.
Yeah. I mean, are there things like that that annoy you, like the way that, I don't know, the sport is presented sometimes, or certain terminologies that are used, or presumptions that are made? Because I suppose it's almost like in people's nature to be slightly careful about what they say and how they say it, and maybe that alone is annoying to you. Like, you know, are there certain things that you'd like to see changed, or attitudes, the way that people approach it?
Yeah, I think maybe just like the general misunderstanding of like what people are capable of sometimes is frustrating. Or that like people have their own autonomy. I think I like to assume that people are always coming from a place of like not trying to harm people or like be offensive. They just like want to help, but sometimes it's frustrating when someone like runs up to you and be like, "Oh, can I help?" and you say no, but yet they like still try to help you. Like that's frustrating. And so yeah, I think there's a lot of underestimating that happens in our world, because people see something that's different than what they are, and they can't imagine like themselves necessarily in that situation and feeling like capable on their own. And so yeah, I think just bringing more awareness to para sport is such a great way to start a conversation about these things and really start proving how capable and how athletic we are. Because yeah, it's a great way for people to see that, and to see like the capability that everyone has, despite any sort of disability or challenge that they might have.
Yeah, so your kind of journey to becoming a world and Paralympic champion is not really the result of a kind of a moment or a conversation with someone, or like something that kind of made you click. It was just, it's actually been a very natural progression of discovery of a sport that you're very good at, and several five sports.
There was maybe a moment, because I think for a while I had no idea what parasport was, and I had no understanding or like context of what it could be. I remember when I was young, and maybe like third grade, someone came up to me at a swim meet and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing an adaptive swim thing?" Or, I mean, this is my like third grade recollection, but she had said something about it, and I was like, "No, I don't need that." Like I'm here with my friends. Like, why would I do that? And so I just didn't realize like what this whole world was. And so it really wasn't until I was in college that I read an article about someone that was going to be competing in London for swimming, and they were training with their college swim team. And I think that was the first time where it really struck me that like this wasn't like, this was a really high level of sport, and that it could be an avenue to compete at a high level and compete against other people on a level playing field, where I wasn't just competing with myself. And so yeah, I think everything, kind of how I grew up being active, all of that has led to me being able to be pretty successful in sport. But there was definitely kind of this shift and this awakening and understanding when I was in college of like what was possible.
And then it was obviously a very rapid kind of ascension in para triathlon as well for you. You know, you definitely kind of took it flying. And 2014 was your first full season, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the World Championships. Successfully defended that title in Chicago in 2015, which must have been, I mean, for your defending your title in your hometown, presumably family there and everything. Does that still kind of rank as one of the all-time great moments in your career?
Definitely. Yeah, that was such a cool experience because a bunch of my family was there. My niece was like 3 weeks old at the time. She was there. And yeah, just friends were there, and yeah, that was such a special experience. It like looking back now, it seems like that was so long ago. And things have changed so much in our sport. Like it's advanced so much since then. And I think that's been the awesome thing for me, is that every single year it becomes harder and harder. And like, that's my favorite thing, is that means that the sport is growing and more people are finding out about paratriathlon and getting into it, and gaining the resources to be competitive. And it's just become more and more exciting every year. Rio probably really helped give like a destination for people's dreams, or kind of like, this is possible, like this is a sport that I can compete in. So I think you saw a lot of people that transferred from other sports into triathlon. And I know personally in my category, that's where a lot of our competition came from, people with backgrounds in wheelchair racing or cycling and swimming. They were now in the sport. And so here you had people that were at the top level of their sport, their individual sport, now coming in to triathlon. And that's obviously gonna push the competitiveness of the sport. And I think that was seen probably in a lot of different classes, or just better opportunities to recruit athletes.
Yeah, from Chicago, was it was Edmonton 2014, was it?
Yeah.
So from, say, Edmonton to Lausanne, just like the race itself, the setup, and would you say that there has been progress in the production generally as well?
Yes, definitely from like a organization standpoint, and then also from, I guess, my like level of preparation. In 2014, I was still so new. I think I flew in to Edmonton like crazy late. I was there maybe one day before the race, trying to make it work with my job at the time. And now, this is what I'm doing full time, is training for sport. And yeah, I think that's been paralleled in, the support that we've gotten from World Triathlon and in our events, and really trying to raise the professionalism of paratriathlon and on the world stage.
And right before Lausanne, it was the test event as well, right? I mean, felt totally disconnected from the actual event with the delay to the games and so on, obviously. But was that, and did you finish 5th or 6th in that race? And
I did, yeah.
Is that like a combination of factors, or?
Well, for us, it was a duathlon.
Of course, yeah.
Because of the water. But yeah, that was like the worst the worst race that I've ever had. Which honestly I had a lot of anxiety around that leading into Tokyo, because this one race that was like really quite disastrous for me was in Tokyo, and then here I was trying to go back to Tokyo and perform at my very best. And so I think that I worried a lot about that going into Tokyo.
And Lauren, obviously you had a great battle in Lausanne, and then heading into Tokyo for the games themselves, she was pretty much always going to be the one to beat, right?
Yeah.
It was hot, it was humid, it was pretty early. Presumably a lot of, you guys were out first though, right? So there wasn't, did you feel a huge amount of pressure? How were you feeling on that morning? And
Yeah, I think for the amount of nerves that I had going into that race, like really like the past 6 months leading into that race was just like an emotional roller coaster for me, of nerves. And
6 months of them.
I mean, almost, yeah, like it really, I mean, at that point I had been doing triathlon for 9 years, and it just felt like I had been building towards this for 9 years, and I had so much expectations for myself, and I knew, my teammates had this like amazing belief in me that I was able to win that race, and at times when I didn't believe I could, they did. And so I felt a lot of pressure for myself, but also just like really wanting to show up for everyone that it's been here for me for the past 9 years. But yeah, I guess all that being said, I would say that on the morning of the race, I wasn't that nervous. I think at that point, like, we've gone to so many races before, and you have this like race routine that is pretty consistent. And so at that point, it was just about executing that. And I think at that point, it's like you've done everything you can. There's nothing else you can do besides just execute that plan that you have race morning. And so that, I think, gave me a lot of comfort of like, I know what my plan is. I can just do it, and then whatever happens, happens. Yeah, so I think it's weird how your emotions change so much, from like the night before to like actually being there and racing.
And there was only 3 of you, because the first wave was a bit larger as well. Wave, probably not the right term, but so yeah, this race that you'd been building up for 9 years for, and actually at that start line, just by virtue of the people in it and those separation of your category, the 3 of you, how did that feel? And then obviously for you, it is always kind of Operation Chase, right? That's the way it works out. So
I think starting back on the stagger, the like people talk about like race tactics and like, oh, you have to, maybe be tactical here on the bike of like, what are you, when are you going to be passing, and be smart on your passing. And when you're starting back like that, really the only tactic is go. And so like you have to just be full speed ahead from the start. And yeah, I think I kind of knew from the beginning. I know Mona from France, she swims so incredibly, and we started together, and so I know that I can kind of swim with Mona for the first part. And then yeah, it's really about like trying to just make the people in front of you a little bit closer and closer, and steadily just like chip away at that time and not panic when it's maybe not going down as fast or at the times that you think it's going to go down.
Because it was going down pretty fast at the start of that first bike lap, right? And it was the gap to Lauren was then like 2.5 minutes. So yeah, the swim had obviously gone very well. As had that first lap.
The swim is actually the part that made me nervous, because I normally make up a little bit more time on the swim. And so I came out of the water and I was a little bit farther back than I was expecting. And yeah, I think for me, the bike was such an unknown. That's the one area that I had really been working on since Lausanne. And this was the first race where I was going to be racing with Lauren since Lausanne. And so I just didn't know. She's an incredible biker. So I didn't know, you think that you've worked so hard on this one discipline, and objectively you can see that in your numbers, but yeah, the other person is the unknown. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make up time at all on the bike. And So when I started to, that was, like really big confidence boost of like, okay, I can, this is actually kind of possible. It's okay that I didn't make up as much time as I thought I could on the swim, but I'm still making up time on the bike. So just like keep going.
And then coming out of the second transition, as you were coming out of the blue carpet, there was Jetse Plaat, obviously like the Dutch Superman, kind of gunned past you. But yeah, by virtue of the men and the women all kind of being on the course together at the same time, just something like that kind of, can that be quite useful? I always think, because the wheelchairs and the hand cycles, they're hard to maneuver intricately, right? And it must be difficult when there are different speeds and overtaking and so on. Like, obviously Jetse was was going at quite a lick.
Yeah, I thought maybe for a second, I'm like, oh, just stay with Jetse, but like that was a pipe dream. Like wasn't gonna happen. But yeah, I think that course especially, it was pretty tight and turny, and there's I guess in comparison to most of our races, there was just a lot going on. Like you had the men and the women on the course, but you also had like officials on bikes and a motorbike with the first top 3 women and men on the course. So there's, at max 6 motorbikes going around on this course. And so there was a lot of traffic. And I think, to be honest, I do think that's where my experience on the Nordic side really kind of benefited me, because managing traffic and like picking lines on a ski course is something that we talk about all the time. And so yeah, I think that was something that I had confidence in the racing chair. It was just knowing like, okay, how can I get around these people when it's smart? And maybe what's a line that they might not see on this corner where I can take advantage of that and take an inside line and pass them on a corner, things like that, where again, it was like all of these little experiences and these things that I've learned over the last 9 years of doing everything really kind of came into play during that race.
Was that almost heightened on that? It was a pretty long ramp down into transition, wasn't it? And there was a distance still to be made up as you were coming down it. So was that part of that, finding the right line? And it's small adjustments, isn't it, that to when you're going at that speed in those chairs. You could see it particularly with Lauren, because I think the camera was on her as she was sort of hitting the flat bit, but just a couple of small moves with the right hand just to make that little kink turn and hit the final straight.
Yeah, that downhill and that turn was something that I was thinking about since the test event, because we had that same part of the course at the test event, and I knew that was going to be a really important part of the course, especially if it was going to be a tight finish, which I was pretty convinced that it was going to be a close finish, or at least was hoping it was going to be. So when we got to Tokyo and we were there for the course previews, that was something that me and my coach looked at the days before the race, and we really talked about like, okay, how are you going to manage this downhill? What's the best way to take this corner so you can maintain your speed but not be worried about tipping over? So that was, again, it was something where it's like, these are the small little details that all came together in order to make that race happen.
And have you ever been in a sprint finish quite like that before? Or had to get that much? Is that the hardest you've pushed yourself in a race, those final few hundred meters?
Yeah, well, yes and no. Definitely for triathlon, that's been the tightest race I've been in. But I guess in skiing, we have a sprint event that's like a 3-minute race. and I'm terrible at it. I really I'm not a fan of the sprint, and so I knew that like sprinting is not my forte, and that if it was going to be a close race, there was a potential for there to be a sprint finish, and I didn't want to be out sprinted or just know that like I hadn't prepared for that possibility. And so, yeah, leading into Tokyo, I worked with my strength coach and my coach and said, hey, like this is a weakness I have and we need to prepare for it. And so, yeah, trying to build that sprint speed was something that we really worked on.
Did you get some good numbers out of it? You have like a little onboard computer to go through after, right?
Yeah, I do. I have a little computer on the racing chair that I keep track of speed on. And yeah, I think into the finish, we were close to like, I don't know, 16, 17 miles per hour. So yeah, really, really quite charging towards the end there. And I was worried there's like a wall of cameras when you finish. And I was like, oh my gosh, we're going to run into these, because the brakes on the racing chairs aren't that great. They're like pretty non-functional. So it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to end in disaster.
I mean, that's the last thing you want to be having to think about when you're going full tilt for a medal is whether you're going to hit a cameraman on the other side.
Yeah, if you can put in a request for Paris, longer finish shoot would be great.
The commentator said, I think he said it looked like you got fire in your eyes. Did they feel like they were actually kind of on fire by the time you finished as well?
Yeah, it was like, I think at that point, there's so many points of the race where I can like very distinctly remember things that I was thinking at that point, and then others that are just a blur. And that was definitely one of those blur moments where you're not really thinking at that point. You're just trying to move. Yeah.
And an amazing way to win a gold, but also a pretty awful way to lose one for Lauren. Did you? I suppose it's hard to kind of console someone or to speak to someone, and you've got so much going on, and then you look up and they've probably gone away as well to sort of go through their own process and so on. But to think, I don't know, surely you if you were in that position, you would it's hard not to think about those little moments where you could have saved yourself literally a split second and that could have won you the race, and that what if must be pretty tricky.
Yeah, no, I guess we didn't talk too much that day, but I was able to talk with Lauren quite a bit actually the day after. Mm-hmm. Which for me was really important, just to kind of like, I mean, she was the reason I was pushing so hard into this race. And so, I think just the amount of respect for her as an athlete that I have, and I guess like gratitude for someone to push you like that. It was really important for me to connect. And we've been able to kind of talk with each other a number of times since then. But I know losing a race like that definitely sparks a whole new fire in someone. And I'm already kind of exhausted thinking about the work going into Paris, because she's just going to come back with like so much drive for that win. So it's exciting, but a little bit daunting.
And she's got incredible coming from that other side, like you mentioned. You were born with spina bifida. She lost use of her legs, very recently, relatively speaking, and which obviously has its own huge challenges to come to terms with. Is that something that you've ever thought further down the line you'd quite like to do? That sort of advising or coaching, or just encouraging other people to take up para triathlon, and for people who perhaps do find themselves in those kind of situations of having accidents and so on, and I guess being an ambassador for the sport in a you do it on the field of play, but down the road, is that an area that you ever think about?
I guess I haven't really thought about whether like coaching or something like that would be something I'm interested in, but I think, yeah, I think regardless of what I'm doing, sport is always going to be a part of my life, and trying to advocate for people to get involved in sport is something that's really important to me. And yeah, I guess I don't really know what that's going to look like, but yeah, hopefully encouraging people to just be active, whether it's, you know, a kid or someone that's new to this whole thing. And yeah.
And the US team going into Tokyo, the para team, I mean, well, just within triathlon alone was pretty incredible sort of lineup of athletes, and presumably you as a national team across all sports were together.
Yeah, it is cool. You're, you know, in the village, you're around all the other athletes. So, you know, we had like a sports med hub and a nutrition hub in our building, and you know, you pop in there and you see someone that's going for, you know, a final in swimming or you know, track and field or something like that. And yeah, there's this really kind of like energy around it where people are just excited to be there and excited to compete and really be supportive of one another. And yeah, so building off that energy as a team, in addition to, you know, the para tri team is I think really what makes the games experience so unique. It's not just another race, it's this race within this whole massive event that's a movement in sport.
It must also make you appreciate for those athletes coming from smaller delegations, like, you know, the effort and the dedication and that it must take when you don't have that kind of support network and stuff as well. Like the difference in experience must be enormous, right?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I think, yeah, for me, that's so important is the team that you have. And, you know, being a part of the US team, that means it's quite large. And, you know, from a support aspect, but just, you know, like, I guess like staff support, but also like team support and teammate support. So when you don't have that, yeah, like so much respect for that, because you're kind of there by yourself grinding and trying to make it work and working at such a high level. And it's tough.
Well, I'm all hoping for a slightly smoother intro to Paris 24, obviously, and hoping that
Yeah.
whole qualification route is going to be considerably more straightforward. For you now, like between now and the start of March and the Beijing Games, how's it looking?
Yes. Yeah. You know, I feel like it's going to go by so quickly. We have 2 more races in Lillehammer, and then we have a week in Sweden where we'll have 4 more races. And then we're back just for 3 weeks. I live in Montana in the winter for training now. So we'll be there for 3 weeks and then we leave. So yeah, it's really like a month before we leave to compete, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, and it's just going to go so quick.
Yeah. So carrying on the hard work and presumably quite a lot of PCR testing and to throw into the mix, and general admin as well, is there?
Yes, yeah, so many tests. Yeah, which definitely adds to the stress for sure.
Well, best of luck out there. Presumably then post Beijing, it will be is the focus then gonna you'll park the Nordic for a little while, will you, and focus to Paris? Is that kind of how you?
Yeah. I mean, I think first on tap is like a really not doing anything for a while. So yeah, and then eventually probably getting back into some races this summer for the triathlon season, and yeah, then we'll see after that. Not too many plans other than an April full of like a lot of time with family.
Well, huge amount of luck to you for Beijing. I hope it goes well and the next month and two is smooth. Thanks ever so much. It's been fascinating speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
And good luck out there.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.